Well, hello and welcome to another week of Soap Secrets, and we are going to be talking all things Holby and Casualty today. Today I've got Victoria Wilson joining me to talk about Holby. Hi, Victoria.
Hi, Hannah.
Now, there's a surprise visitor this week, isn't there?
Yes, we see the return of a very familiar face when the lovely Carol Copeland, fan favourite Carol Copeland, turns up on Keller. Dom's adoptive mother. She really is part of the Holby family, so it is always really lovely to see her. She's certainly pleased to see Dom, or my Dazzle, as she calls him. You can laugh, it's fine. But you'd think he'd be pleased to see her, but he's not exactly welcoming when she turns up, and Dom soon there's a we see a bit of a frosty exchange between them, and then Dom's in theatre with Sasha, and he tells him that they've sort of become distant. Basically, they'd arranged to meet for dinner, and she didn't show up. So what brings her to Holby? Well, she turns up with a serious burn on her arm, and as she talks to Sasha, she explains that she burnt it on her oven. And then sort of Sasha notices that she's carrying loads of sort of post-it reminders around, like turn off the gas and make sure you turn off the grill after use and things like that. So he starts to then think there's something there sort of might be something more going on. And so he sends her to neurology for a scan. When she's waiting outside neurology, though, she bumps into Dom's real mum, Ange, more on her later, who tells Carol all about the accident. The accident Dom had a couple of months back. He's had quite a traumatic few months, but she sort of tells her all about the accident that left him with life-changing injuries. Now, Carol, it turns out, had no idea about the accident or how he nearly died and Sasha saved him, or that he had to have a colostomy bag fitted, which is like fairly big news. So she's clearly devastated and kind of confronts Dom, who he basically admits that he didn't confide in her about his ordeal because she couldn't have done anything to help. But so then the situation kind of turns on its head, because it seems that Carol's been keeping secrets about her own health. And she does, toward the end of the episode, receive something of a shock diagnosis from Sasha. But she begs him not to tell Dom about her condition, as he's, in her words, been through enough. But you're sort of left thinking, well, you know, will Dom want to be there to support the woman he's always called mum? You would think so. Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah, we here at Soap Secrets love Carol. It's always a joy when she pops up. Carol Deacon, Julia Deacon, apologies, who plays her, is always, she just is Carol. It's a great performance. So we really do want this storyline to have a happy outcome, but we have a feeling, we have it on the down low, that this could be a bit of a tearjerker in the coming weeks. So we'd advise all fans to stock up on Kleenex.
It is a soap and it is Holby.
Yeah, yeah.
So, Ange, you just sort of hinted there that there was more on Ange. Tell us more.
Well, Hannah, you've earned yourself some serious soap brownie points, because you correctly predicted last time that Ange Goddard, who thought she was perimenopausal, was in fact pregnant. Yes, she is pregnant. So this week she's kind of struggling to obviously digest the news herself, being what would officially be known as a geriatric mum. So she's sort of dealing with that, whilst also kind of battling with whether or not to tell her young lover, Josh, who basically only last week told her he didn't want kids. It's that kind of weird conversation where it's like, oh, you don't want them, so I don't want them, and but now obviously we are where we are. So anyway, Kylie gets sort of thrown in the mix next episode with she sort of thinks she calls Ange aside and she's like, she obviously knows about the situation, and she said, Josh would change his mind if he knew his woman was actually pregnant, but Ange kind of bats her off. So plucky Kylie, decides to offer a helping hand, taking it upon herself to tell Josh he's going to be a dad. Yay, Kylie. Well, Josh is a straight up kind of guy. So the next time he sees Ange, he does make clear that he knows, which kind of shocks her a bit. And then they're left in that, oh, okay, what do we do? Ange says she didn't want to tell him because she doesn't want to burden him. He's so young. He's 25 by all accounts, and he's looking after a mother with MS, and he's got this great career ahead of him. But Josh is adamant that kind of whatever Ange decides, he'll support her. I mean, Josh might be young, but with this storyline especially, we're really watching him grow from a boy into a man. So it'd be interesting to see where this goes. Again, we have whispers that there's lots to come from this pair.
It's an interesting dynamic, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's to see how it works, because we're sort of used to you're quite used to seeing women with older men. That always seems to be, that's okay, and then the other way around, there's kind of eyebrows raised. It just seems a little bit double standards, doesn't it, really?
Yeah, and obviously there's been lots just recently, lots of older celebrities and actresses are speaking out about menopause, because it's that kind of last taboo subject.
Yeah,
even medics don't truly know a lot about it, or a lot about how it manifests, or the symptoms and what have you. So it was good on that score alone that it was raising that issue. But you always know when they make a major character pregnant that it's never going to be plain sailing anyway. So we think there might be a little bit of that.
Okay. And Sahira's son, Abs, returns.
Yeah, well, Sahira's not about, but Max. So the storyline kind of focuses on Max. I don't know quite how she gets involved, but anyway, she's involved when so Sahira, as you say, her teenage son Abs, who we've seen before, he returns to the hospital, the hospital, and he's injured and traumatized. So it's like, what's wrong? How did he get there? He's still kind of tormented about the death of his grandfather, if we remember, Rayhan, who Hanson allegedly who he abused Hanson as a child. So that was that whole big storyline there. But at the time that Rayhan died, there were suspicions over what had killed him, and as we discover in this episode, Abs's mother Sahira is currently serving time in prison, having taken responsibility. If we remember, right at the end, she kind of took responsibility for her father's death. There was lots of stuff around this kind of abuse allegations. But so just as a small teaser, back to this latest episode, and Max is deeply concerned about Abs, particularly when he sort of starts to recall his last encounter with his grandfather. Anyway, Max sort of does some digging, reopening old wounds, as Chloe says. And she comes to the conclusion that Sahira might not have been the one who killed Rayhan.
A big cover-up.
Yeah, how far will you go to protect your family? I guess is the storyline. Some people will
go very far. It's a bit of a week, isn't it, for Holby?
Yeah, some good episodes to come, and I have had some hints about what's going on in the coming months, or what's to come in the coming months. Obviously, it's all under the umbrella of the fact that people know Holby will be coming to an end in March. The producers promised that when it did, it would, go out on a high. And if the storylines for the next few months, at least, are anything to go by, they are going to most certainly be doing that.
And that was going to be my next question, actually, that the kind of petition to keep it alive, I take it, is falling on deaf ears.
Well, you never know with these things. BBC takes a lot of heat, so this is just one of of many things that people kind of campaign about. But we'll see that they are certainly pulling out all the stops drama wise for the next few months at least. So we'll see.
Yeah. Watch this space.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Victoria.
Take care now.
Right, Casualty. We have two very good guest stars this week, don't we?
We do. We have Alexei Sale and Leslie Ash.
Brilliant.
So, Leslie Ash has already been in Casualty and in Holby City, because she played Vanessa Lytton, who was the chief executive, and that was over 10 years ago. So she's making a guest star this week. But let's start off with Alexei Sale. He's a comedian and a writer, and he plays Lev's Russian dad. And you know what? When I saw them together, they did look a bit like father and son. It's kind of a really good bit of casting.
Uncanny.
It did. It was. So this week we do have a bit of a Lev storyline. He meets up with the homophobic thug Sam, who he hit and who is taking him to court, and he offers Sam money to drop the charges. I'm not sure that that's a really wise decision. There's a row. Sam obviously wants more money, and he turns to storm away from Lev, and he crosses the road without looking, Hannah, and he's hit by a car, and he's hit quite badly by a car, you've got one of those big veins in your leg, and if you cut that, you can bleed out very, very quickly, and he's cut his leg on that vein.
This is why I struggle with Casualty. This is why I struggle with these hospital programs, because just the mere thought of that happening makes me go weak at the knees. I can't. Oh.
Lev just charges into action and he saves his life. He does it really well. He has to put a tourniquet to stop poor Sam bleeding out. It is. You see how paramedics do jump into action and do save people's lives. So it's really good. But he finally has a big discussion this week with Faith, because Sam's still been, he saved his life, but he's still not saying, hey, well, I'll drop the charges then. I mean, you would, wouldn't you? You would say, okay. But no, he just ups the money because he's a drug addict and he's not a very nice person. Lev's really crushed under this. He's got a family. He doesn't want to lose his job. He's got kids to feed, and he has a big discussion with Faith, and it's a really emotional moment for both of them, because he says to his estranged wife that he's gay and that he won't live the lie any longer. And Faith thinks, yeah, we're moving forwards. This is great. And then they turn up at their marital home, and outside waiting to be let in is his Russian dad, Anton. Will Lev confess all to his dad?
Yeah, and that's the final sort of piece, isn't it, of him really being who he is and living a real life, as opposed to putting on a pretense. And that, I mean, it's hard. I think it would be very hard.
It is, and his dad really is the reason why he hasn't confessed that he's gay, why he tried to hide it and pretend that he wasn't. So this is going to be an extraordinary meeting between the two of them.
And so you also said that Leslie Ash is back. Well, brilliant news. What's she doing? She's back in the same character, I assume.
She's back as the same character, yes, as Vanessa, but she comes in as a patient. So she's not back working in Holby, in the hospital Holby. She's back as a patient. She comes in, she's hurt her arm. She says she fell down the stairs, and she comes in with her partner, who is played by Bill Ward. Now, Bill Ward, this is a very interesting piece of casting because Bill Ward is best known as wife beater Charlie Stubbs from Coronation Street from about 15, 20 years ago. So this is a really good bit of casting. And Vanessa has injuries that seem to suggest she is being beaten by her partner. But is she?
So you're always going to jump to conclusions because you've seen him do this elsewhere.
Yes.
Okay. And we see Rash and Tina trying to sort things out, but there's a side to Tina that we see that's quite manipulative, isn't there?
Yes, we do. So when she tries to get Vanessa to admit that maybe she's in an abusive relationship, Tina just comes up with this story. She just acts it out how she was in an abusive relationship and how it wasn't going to change, and you quite believe her. And then Rash says, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't realise you had that kind of relationship." And she went, "Oh, I didn't. That was just made up." And you just kind of think, "Oh, it's a bit weird." And then she also has another patient who she looks up on social media, and she says, "Oh, I think she's allergic to this," and so she's prying quite deeply. She's being a bit manipulative. Is she the Tina we know and love, or is this a different side to her?
Yes, I think it might be a different side.
Well, it's been a drama-packed week in Holby City and Casualty. Thank you very much for listening to Soap Secrets. You can find us at iTunes, Spotify and Acast, and don't forget to subscribe. See you next week.